listening to another episode of Fort Riley, the podcast. In observance of Women's History Month, we gathered 4 women leaders from across the installation to talk about who influenced them and what they hope others will learn from their service.
I'm Colonel Ann King, and my title is Deputy Commander for Irwin Army Community Hospital.
Neve Nell, Brigadier General, and I am the Deputy Commanding General for Support.
I am Lieutenant Colonel Pearl Christensen. I'm the battalion commander for the 601st Aviation Support Battalion, which is a part of the 1st Combat Aviation Brigade underneath 1st Infantry Division.
And I'm Colonel Rochelle Ratoma, the Dental Health Activity Commander.
Would each of you tell me about who inspired you to become who you are today?
I want to share, and I know this is a Women's History Month, so we want to talk about different women who inspired me. But additionally, I have also men in my life who have inspired me as well. So I grew up in South Korea. I grew up in Korea with when I was younger, and my grandfather and my grandmother, from my maternal side, they had 6 girls and 2 boys. And at that time, when they were growing up, at that time, 1940s, girls were not prioritized in education or just in the life. And so with that, my grandfather really didn't want all the girls to they weren't treated as second-class citizens. They all went to universities and colleges. They all graduated. They all played sports. And they learned how to swim, ice skate, everything they could do. And they didn't minimize the girls to be able to do what they needed to do. They all became professionals. And so they became surgeons, doctors, and pharmacists and all that. So just from that history, it was just kind of that foundation that I had in my life with my parents. And so it was that encouragement that, being a female is not less, or that there wasn't any barriers. Additionally, having that from the grandfather, but building that from the father as well, having encouragement from the father to know that being a female is not less than being a male, and that you could do anything that you want to do. Mm-hmm. So that kind of encouraged me to be who I am now. Yeah.
Yes. So I'd say Army-wise, when I was trying to decide what branch to pick when I was at West Point, they really gave us an overview of all the combat arms branches, but then they said you can't go into any of them. So this was before women were allowed into combat arms. So my coaches, who were all infantry officers from the crew team, all said, well, we think you'd like MPs because they have a good field mission. We've seen it as infantrymen. So I picked MPs, and then went off to the MP Corps, where I thought at every level there was, and at least one level above, and sometimes 2 level above, there was a successful woman that I could see that in some cases was also a mother with kids, that was looked at as a competent professional and appreciated in the military police corps, because that integrated in 1979. So by the time I joined, they had kind of worked through the issues of integrating, and now women were looked at as it's the same capability. I need a captain. It doesn't matter if it's a female captain or a male captain, but at every level I could look up and see a successful woman within my branch, which I thought was great.
So I would start out to say that my father motivated me to join the military. He served 38 and a half years in the reserves before he retired. And he was very similar in that he always taught me that I could do anything and I could be anything. And so that motivated me to join the service. But since being in the service, I've had a few role models that I could look up to and see that they have been successful. And a few that were my seniors, a few that were my peers. But in aviation, it tends to be a little bit more challenging because there's not as many. So they come fewer and far between, but it's always been nice to see those come before, be successful, to show us that we can achieve that higher rank.
So I would have to say that I come from a very long line of strong, very, very strong women. And I'm also very fortunate because my father was very supportive ever since I was a little girl of me, and just following whatever dream that I had. And in terms of the military, I have family members that were in the service. I have a great uncle. He was my favorite relative besides my grandmother. He had served, and he was a survivor of the Bataan Death March during World War II. So he greatly influenced my desire. My brother served in the 82nd Airborne. As far as women in the military, it has taken me a while, because I came in, I commissioned at 41 years old. I didn't know a lot of people, and much like Lieutenant Colonel Christensen, the dental field, when I came in was 25% female. And in the military, coming in so late, it was hard to make friends and kind of alliances and find people to look up to. But my last duty station, the principal deputy director, is retired 06 female colonel. She did 31 years. She was in military intelligence, and she became the garrison commander for a base that everybody told her she would never be able to get. So right then and there, when she told me that, I was like, okay, you're somebody that I need to get to know. And then honestly, I've had students, female students, especially the prior service female students. I have enlisted NCOs that have helped develop me as an officer. And so that's really been some of the best part of my Army experience so far.
Talk about what you hope the women coming up behind you learn from your example, from your career.
So my hope is that, from like the students, the young students that I see from high school to college, and the students that I precept, to young lieutenants, what my hope is that they could see that there's so much opportunities out there, and so much opportunities that they could take advantage of, and that hopefully they don't let it pass by. And that's what I always try to hope, that there's so much opportunities, don't let it get by, because if you miss that opportunity, you never know what you're going to miss out on. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely hope people see, she seems like a pretty regular person. I can do that too. I mean, really. But I really hope that people see also, like, don't ever let anyone tell you no. Exactly. Or at least don't tell yourself no. Always try. And then if someone does tell you no, you weren't the one that took yourself out of the running, because people do that a lot. Oh, I didn't think I can do that. I don't think I can do that. This is known for women across all. Women won't apply for a job unless they think they can fit 75 to 80%. Men will apply to a job when they can do 50%. I mean, that's known. That's not just in the military. So I think sometimes people miss opportunities because they're writing themselves off too much. And I hope they can look at everybody in this room and say, okay, I'm not going to tell myself no. I'm going to try to do it.
yeah.
I would include, I believe in leader development, and not just women leader development, but leader development in general. And without leader development, you can't grow as a person. And so I hope that those who come behind me, not just the ladies, but the leaders that come behind me, know that they can accomplish it. They see somebody who has accomplished it, and that they strive to make themselves better. As leaders in the military, we have been given the sacred responsibility to take care of the men and women, the sons and daughters of the American people. And so we as leaders have that responsibility on our shoulders. We have to be better. And so what I want my soldiers and my leaders, and I'm very big on leader development, I run a very tight leader development program within my battalion. I want them to know that they can be better and that they can achieve better. They don't have to be perfect, but they can be better. And just like you said, ma'am, don't let somebody tell you no. Get out there and try to accomplish it.
So there's also evidence that we're all thinking along the same lines. My first one is never say no to being voluntold, being asked to do something, because you never know what opportunities will open up after you do something that you never thought you would do. And then don't readily accept no, especially to innovative ideas. Try not to say no to subordinates, especially because I'm also big into leader development. you're never going to have enough time. You're never going to have enough money, resources, people to do your job. So that's no excuse to say no to the soldiers, to help them develop, because their careers, their lives, their families' livelihoods are in your hands. And oftentimes I see a lot of leaders say, well, no, because we have to do this for the mission. The mission can go on. It will go on. And you just have to be innovative and creative enough to figure out how to make that work. It can't be an excuse to not develop soldiers. Get to know as many people, subordinates especially, as possible. Really get to know them so that you can develop them. And I'm big on develop as well. As far as peers, positively and support and encourage each other and learn how to collaborate. Working with peers is probably the hardest thing that officers are going to learn how to do. I think it's for the enlisted it's easier. They just kind of direct down, but really the success comes with dealing with peers. I believe in fair and equal discipline increases morale, and if you don't exact discipline, you're not going to have a cohesive unit. And then definitely use each rank for the betterment of those below. I believe in taking care of those below, working well with those at your level, and don't worry about the top. No offense, ma'am, but if you do those other things, the top will be fine and they'll be happy, and your superiors, the mission will go on and it'll succeed. So,
Women's History Month.
Mm-hmm.
Why do each of you feel as if that is important?
I feel that it's important to celebrate and have the Women's History Month, to have the moment to think about all the things that in the past that other women have done to break barriers in the past in the field of, in the Army or other things like the NASA and in medicine and then aviation. There's like so many fields that other women in history have broken barriers and that we continue to do. So I think that's important to think about that and celebrate that. And also having that diversity, like that's what makes us, and not just having one way of thinking, but having that diverse way of thinking as a group and having that input from women, I think is important to have our society there. And then also just empowering our youth to have, our daughters or kids see us in uniform or out of uniform or all the things that we do. I think it's empowering for them to see us and all the things that we do. Yeah. So just, I think that Women's History Month is important to recognize those things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely agree. It partly you get a lot of inspiration from it. Recently, everybody has recognized the postal battalion, the female postal battalion that went to Europe. I mean, they did think about how long ago they did that, and now there's a lot of recognition of what a great mission they did. It was all women. It was a colored unit that went over there, led by a female lieutenant colonel. I mean, it's just fantastic. And they sorted through all this mail that had been just backlogged, and they said that this is all for morale. And when they got back, they didn't really get that much recognition, just finally getting that recognition now from a World War II mission. So, but now people know about it and realize, like, there have been a lot of trailblazers along the way, as you said. It's funny talking to my aide, because I realized that, she, in her mind, women have always had these opportunities, because since she's been in the Army, they have. So, I mean, it's awesome. She's infantry and she's a ranger, but that opportunity has only existed in the last probably 6 years. So I try to give her the story of all the people that did stuff before that. First female paratrooper, first female tomb guard, a female winning a medals for bravery in either Afghanistan or in Iraq. That all cleared the way for the combat arms to be opened for women, to get her to kind of where she is now. I mean, she did a lot of work individually, but to give her that opportunity to be able to do it. But at the same time, I realized when I was reading something, there's so many trailblazers that came before all of us. There's women that were in the Women's Army Corps that then, we have one leader in particular that was MP Branch, that she was in the WAC. She closed the WAC. She was the first female to command an installation. She did this at Fort McClellan. Like, this is years ago. I'm talking in the 80s, There's other women that they're first person to go to war college, those that has all been done, and sometimes you have to really reflect on, like, wow, the accomplishments of people to get me to where I am, to give me these kind of opportunities, and then can I continue to do that for people kind of following me?
I feel it's important because of the history. If we don't remember our history, we're doomed to repeat it. And this goes for all the months that we recognize, but diversity is our biggest strength when it comes to the United States military. And if we don't celebrate our diversity and provide opportunities for those who have not experienced the challenges of being a woman in the military, or a woman in general, or an African American, or a Pacific Islander, or a minority individual, those opportunities to learn about those cultures, that experience provides those individuals perspective, and by providing that perspective, we can grow our young men and women and give them ability to see beyond what they've experienced. So I think it's important so that we can share the perspective and teach others about what has come before us, and hopefully give examples for them to follow ourselves.
I agree with what everybody has said so far, because historically it's been a man's world, it's been a man's military, and every generation needs leaders and trailblazers to inspire and motivate them, and we as women bring a unique, varied perspective and complementary skill sets to the table, and I don't think we could survive or move forward without that, especially with the way the world is changing today.
Yeah, I would say too, I think sometimes people, you take a look back and you say change happens over time, right? People can sometimes get very frustrated when changes don't happen right away. The first class that was allowed to go to the academies was a class of 80. You know, from the females going to the academies to females being allowed to go to Ranger School, I mean, there's a lot of years. And the great thing is there's great people that work within those time frames that chip away at things that for whatever reason are barriers. But they don't get to do it all, but then they get the tag handed off to the next people that chip away a little bit. But if you look at things that change things over time, it's like policies. It's things like Title IX. Think about how impactful Title IX is. I mean, all women play sports now. It used to be like only this kind of small segment, and was that person a tomboy because they played sports? Yeah, but that's not even like a thing now. But that's all because of like a big policy change in Title IX and money go into those programs. But Title IX came into effect, I don't know, 30 years ago or something like that. So, big changes, kind of policy changes, things change over time, but within what people are able to do at that time, they do kind of carve paths that other people can follow, which is, I think, great.
I think we've kind of said it before, but for all those leaders out there, they just need to continue to believe that they can make a difference and be that example that continues to move forward and chip away at the challenges that they're faced, whatever that challenge may be. But they need to continue to strive to be better and continue forward and be that example for those who come after. In this room, we are all closer to the ends of our careers than we are the beginning. So our job is to lead the next generation of leaders within our military. And so that's the best thing that we could do to make our Army better, our military better, is to provide that example and to show them how.
What I find promising is that the military is a microcosm of what's happening in society. And with the way society has been moving forward progressively, I think, there have been discussions for both sides, but I think in general we're moving in a positive direction, despite all of the back and forth debates, on the outside, socially and politically and whatnot. I actually think that it's an opportunity for us to grow. And like everyone here has said, if you make a decision out of fear, it's probably going to be the wrong decision. So just stand up for yourself, be authentic, do what you think is right, and just let the chips fall where they may.
I'd say too, if I could add, I think everybody realizes now too, like a team that is, maybe a little bit more diverse, when you have a lot of people and they all feel valued and they feel like they can contribute. I mean, that's like the best feeling in the world. I think we have the ability to have those kind of environments now. I mean, that where it's like there isn't a segregation thing anymore. I mean, really racial segregation or whatever, where you can like bring everyone into the fold and like, look, what you do at the hospital is critical. What you do as an aviator is critical. Like everybody's contributing, and I think that environment hasn't existed our whole careers, but I think it actually does now, and good leaders bring that all together, and actually make people feel like I'm part of this team, I'm an important member of the team, and by everybody contributing with different perspectives and different skills, we actually accomplish the mission much better. I think that's a really nice thing about the environment that we have today.
Thank you for listening to Fort Riley, the podcast.